Hey, what's happening, y'all? My name is George LaMond. Welcome to the Talk. My next guest, Carlos Berrios. We can go till 6:05. All right, Berrios.
Hey,
Welcome.
what is up?
Nothing much. I'm sorry, I forgot. Did you get my text?
Yeah, I got the text.
I messed up. I'm telling people, I said, you know what? I told them everything but to join on.
But how to join
So,
it,
yeah. No, that's my bad. Anyway, we lost 5 minutes. That's okay. We'll push it. We get cut an hour. So, all right. So for everyone who doesn't know, Carlos Berrios, he's known as Carlos After Dark Berrios. That's what I've known him as, and I've known him for many years. Worked with him on countless projects. And been around projects that he just worked, period, just to learn. Because whenever you're in this business, if someone invites you over, you always want to learn, just especially if you're a fan of their work. So, welcome finally on the Talk, my brother.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you had the time. I know you've been busy.
Yeah.
I know you've been doing a lot of other projects because you got a lot of projects that you're working on. So the first thing I want to tell people is, where is Carlos Berrios from? What borough do you represent?
I'm from Queens.
Originally.
Yeah. Flushing just about all my life. Flushing. Queens.
Cool. All right. And so I researched as much as I could about you. Carlos Berrios, is he a editor, DJ, producer, mixer, owner of a label, writer, director? What would you title yourself under? Director?
Oh, I guess a little bit of all of the above,
What do you tell people, in this business, whenever we're working professionals now, and sometimes we find ourselves in, corporate parties or out with our significant others, and you always have these people who are vested, and they're like, so what do you do? What do you do for a living? So what do you tell them?
Well, right now I'm working mostly in film, so that's what I tell them. I work in film and film post, and that I used to produce records, and, that at one time I had some success in the music business, and start from there. So generally wherever they want to take the conversation, but
Yeah, I always tell people I'm in the music business. What do you do? I say a little bit of everything.
right.
That's what I tell them, just
right,
to kill
exactly.
it, because I don't want, they won't understand it. So now let's get right to it. So,
Right.
Carlos Berrios, for me, what are the things that comes to mind when your name comes up is always the tight, complete production that you release. We all know that we're our worst critics when it comes to music, pretty much everything.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that. I learned a lot from you that I take to the bank with me every time I do a record. What brought you into the music business in general?
Well, and like everybody else, I started as a DJ, and that sort of the evolution of that to doing any kind of anything to enhance the mixes. And at that time, the Rascals were, they were everything. So
What year?
The Latin Rascals.
What year?
I'm going to say that was like, before I got getting into the music business, that was, even though I knew of them in the early 80s, this is like 1986.
Okay.
When I decided, that I wanted to learn how to edit and make mixes, and I bought a little reel and I started doing that, and it was that decision that sort of opened up the door, so it opened up this door, then it opened up that door, and opened up the other door. The first door that it opened was I met Omar Santana. He came.
Right, I was going to say that. Is that the Dynamic Mixers or the Hit Squad? Is that what you started?
Yeah, we became the Hit Squad. It was me, Omar, and Frankie Bones were the Hit Squad. We did some really cool work in '86.
What did each one bring to what was the squad? So what was everyone's role in the squad?
Frankie Bones was a writer, and he used to do reviews, and he comes from the graffiti world, him and his brother, from Brooklyn. Omar Santana was younger than me, and I was young. So, you know, the fact that he had established himself in such a way at such a young age, you know, was it was something that everyone took notice of, and even his name, you know. This is before I met him. I was jealous of him. I said, "Oh my God, what is this Omar Santana edit?" And he got in before I did, you know, that kind of thing. But he was amazing. He was an amazing.
For the ones who don't, right. So, can you explain to the fans what type of editing you're talking about? Because you're talking about the early '80s, obviously, right? So,
yeah.
What is it that he did that impressed you?
It was, you know, what he was able to do to manipulate tape was simply amazing. You know, to do the repetitions and timing that he did, you know, something that was started by the Latin Rascals, really, and then elevated to another level by Omar. You know, so I was, when we became partners, I was fortunate because I got to learn from him. You know, he was already making records. He was already doing stuff. The first session he brought me in on was, he was just finishing Trilogy's Red Hot. So I met him at the edit room at Unique Recording Studio, and he let me arrange the bonus beat. He goes, "Go ahead, do it," you know, and it was my first time on the Atari machine. But he was cool, you know, he's like, "That's awesome," you know, whatever, and he gave me the credits. So if you see the record, it says bonus beat by Carlos Berrios. Okay. But they probably spelled my name wrong.
I saw it.
They used to happen
because it was wax. It was vinyl, so I had to zoom in on the picture to see. I'm like, okay, your name is on there.
Yeah. So that was my first credit. You know, like my
so a lot of people don't understand. So it's real time consuming. It's an art form that's sadly lost.
Yeah.
It's sadly lost, but it became an international thing. So to make a long story short, you take any type of tape, like a reel-to-reel tape, right? And then what you do is you're pretty much splicing, you're cutting this tape, and what you're doing is you're putting analog, and you're putting this clear tape on it, and what it does, it manipulates the song into a rhythm.
Well, you're repeating phrases. You know, exactly. You're repeating sounds.
In a rhythm. In a
rhythm. So if you look into the history of techno, like if you research where the techno come from, a lot of the early pioneers, they give credit to us, you know, the editors, for inspiring them, because in the beginning, the sounds that we were able to, you know, like what we did, people thought we were sampling. People thought we were like sampling stuff. They didn't really understand, even today, because unless you were in the editing room, you don't really understand what that process was, you know.
Yeah, exactly, because at the time, you know, even though sampling was around, you know, a lot of the people that I knew were working with drum machines, and they didn't have that capability yet, you know. So, I mean, the people that I knew, and you know, one of the best editing works that I've ever heard was from Sweet Sensation. You know, that was Chep. Was that Chep or that was Omar?
That was Omar. That was like that. That's like, to me, that's like the pinnacle of editing. Like nobody's ever topped that. Like,
so people, what was the title record? What was the title record again? Was it Hooked on You?
Something of Love. Victim of Love.
Victim of Love.
Yeah.
So you guys, if go online, go on YouTube, check out the Omar Santana Hooked on You. Whatever it says bonus, was it called
dub version? Yeah.
Dub version.
Yeah.
Listen to that. It's not sampling. It's hours of work of just splicing tape and just making this dope rhythm. So we got that cleared.
So that opened up the door. So that got me in the door. And then me and Omar kind of broke up like a year later. And I was asked by a friend of mine, Lou Martinez, who was also a DJ, but he was working at a film studio where they mix films. It's still there, Stink Sound on 10th Avenue in Manhattan. And there was a composer there who did a lot of TV shows in the 80s. His name was Chuck Hammer. So Lou became friendly with him, and he liked Lou. So Lou called me and he says, "Listen, I have permission from everybody. I have the keys to the studio. We could go in and do it, you know, like try to do something. Let's learn, you know."
Right.
And it was those weekends that we spent together where Out of Control came from, you know, where we had no clue as to what we were doing. You know what the funny thing is, Carlos? Yeah. It's like, I think that's going to be the name of the show. We had no clue what we were doing. Everyone that I've had on the show, they all said, because you guys were young, we were all young. Yeah. We didn't have no clue what we were doing. It's great. Yeah, but that's how you learned, you know. So it was a lot of trial and error. It was one of the early Macs, It was a performer like 0.05, you know, and so the thing kept crashing, you know, so we had to remember what we did and all that stuff. But we got through it, you know, and in that process, I met Karina, and so that was really the first demo. And so I have a lot of histories with demos, you know. So the Out of Control demo, I shopped to the companies that I was doing editing for, so they knew me already as an editor, not as a producer, but I was taking them to those people, to those A&Rs, you know. Everybody turned it down. Nobody liked it. Even Aldo turned it down.
Aldo, right? He was a CEO of Cutting Records.
Cutting Records, right?
Which signed Karina afterward.
Right. You know? Aldo Marin. Yeah. So what happened was, real quick, the story was, I was one of the participants in the creation of L'Amour.
Yes,
that happened.
I telling me.
Yeah, that happened in my neck of the woods. It happened with my people, my friends, you know, and I put Karina in the lineup, even though nobody knew who she was. So she opened up with the demo, you know,
wow.
Which was really mixed horribly, you know. So I still have it, you know. So all you hear is like this big, you know, clave, you know. So she performed it. She performed it, and then Aldo ran up the stairs, and he goes, "Yo," he goes, "Is that the girl, the demo?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Let's talk Monday." I said, "Okay." So that's how the record got signed.
That's correct.
I know he didn't like the record. He liked her, you know.
So,
that's
what it was. Hey,
yeah.
she was a looker. I tell you this: the first time that your name sprung out and got my attention was on Make Noise. I remember, and I knew of what you saw. I just didn't know that it was done by Carlos Berrios. I didn't know you were involved. And Make Noise came in. I remember it was this heavy beat, and it was kind of hip hop ish, and it was a real woody, like, I mean, very round sound.
Yeah.
And you had this little thin voice, and this girl, Make Noise, and she had tons of reverb on. And I remember, for some strange reason, for me, the production was like outshining the singer, because it was such a big record in the clubs. You know?
It was an experiment. It was, you know, I did that out of Elva Molina's bedroom.
Look at that.
The initial tracks, because it quickly got out of control. Because he had, I don't know if they did all the Micmac records on this, but he had a 12-track Akai with a Betamax tape. And that's, you know, he had it there, and I didn't have any equipment, so we went over there. I used his 808, I used his sampler, we looped the record that I wanted to loop, and then I did what I could, and I put a lot of samples, but it was impossible to mix, you know, because I said, oh, let me do 12 tracks like this, and then for a minute, and then the next minute 12 tracks like this. 12. It was impossible. I couldn't mix it. What
do you mean? So there was, because there was too many elements. On the drum machine was just being buried. I mean,
too many elements without automation. You know, automation is the computer. You tell it, oh, I want you to mute here. I want you to do this and remember it. You know, it was a small 12 track, so there was no real automation like that. So it was impossible. So I took that tape. I got another machine, and I went to my man Butch Jones, who I met him on Out of Control. He was the mix engineer for Out of Control.
Yeah, I saw the name on the credit. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Butch Jones, that's my man, and you know we've been working together. We still almost talk all the time today. But I learned so much from him. So we took it, and I dropped all those little sections, and I just repeated them on 48 tracks, 2 tapes, and so I went on the SSL.
So wait, they were all on. So all those tracks on one. You mix everything.
Every track had the same thing going from beginning to end. So I had to choose. But that's the way I did it. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. Right. So that I had to choose what I want here for 8 bars, 16 bars, mute that, turn on the strings, mute that, you know. And so, but the cool thing was I could do whatever I wanted. There was no structure, you know.
Right.
And the way that I met, and so at that time I was, you know, me and Naomi, we dated briefly, and she did the original vocal,
right,
to Make Noise, you know.
To Make Noise, okay.
To Make Noise.
I can hear Naomi on it too. Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, you know, I think Fever wouldn't let her do it or whatever.
Okay.
So I had to take her off and had to use somebody new. And I just met Lisette. I met Lisette the day she did the vocal. I met her that day.
Really?
Yeah.
You go. I didn't know. You learn something every day. Okay.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. You doing vocal with someone? You don't know if they could. Well, you were just doing the demo. If it worked, it worked.
I put the word out. You got to understand, this is like what, my second record, and I put the word out. I need a singer. So Tomax is the one that introduced me to her.
Okay.
Tomax also introduced me to Frank Reyes, who's of course extremely, crucial to what came afterwards, but as a songwriter. But yeah, Tomax introduced me to Lisette. I took his word. She came in, and, it was a hard session, but it was a difficult session only because I wasn't, a good director of vocals.
Right,
yet.
you wasn't right. That's very important as a singer, and I'm glad you touched that, because let me tell you, when you do this, your life, your patience wears thin, especially when you get our age, and
well, I got what do you call that? Post-traumatic stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I heard your stories.
Yeah, but,
So it's very important how you communicate and your approach when you communicate with a musician, because you just never know what nerve you're gonna touch, and the session can go left right away, So I get it. You've gotten way better. So, but all right. So now let's touch on, so you got a hit record, Together Forever. It's blowing up. You revitalize the freestyle music, because at one point it was starting to die down, and then all of a sudden this new style of freestyle came out, and it was considered new school. That's what they were calling it in the street and in the club. So give me a quick synopsis of the Lizette Melendez story.
We were working. Well, we were on Profile. You got to remember. So I was signed to Profile as a DJ artist. So she was featured under me. So it was Only in the Dark featuring Lisette. We put out a second release, and it didn't do anything. I was experimenting again. I did like a house. I was trying to do a take on Little Louis, where the break would slow down. So I slowed it down into like a hip hop thing, and I was working with two really cool cats who I was doing hip hop demos also. They were called Noise and Position, and one of them is actually a very popular house DJ now, Music Man.
Okay.
But it didn't work. So after the second record, Profile released us at the same time that we were working on several demos for Lisette, and one of them was a record. It was a track that I did with a loop that I found, and it was all on an SP1200, but I couldn't figure out, a real structure to it. So I asked Andy Panda, to write, if he would write something to it. So he did. He wrote a song called Love Is Lies. And that demo is like the first kind of like segue into like we became that, that new school beat type of sound,
Okay.
Because I was trying to experiment and figure out like what it is that, what did I have to do to make this beat sound the way that I wanted it to? And it was a struggle, The demo really wasn't very good, even though, we did try to shop it, but I knew it wasn't a good, it wasn't there. Like really, Andy didn't have anything to grab onto as far as melody,
Right.
So, but I still have it. I got the 2-inch, I got it on cassette, After that demo, then we did a few other demos with Frank Reyes writing now, we did one called Baby Please Don't Leave. We did one called Touch My Heart that Frank demoed. We did another one called Do Unto Me, And in the middle of all this, Frankie also called because we used to do shows with and more,
Right.
Only the Dark and make more. So we were very friendly with Frankie, and he was a lot of fun. He was very, he was amazing.
You're talking about Frankie Cutlass?
Frankie Cutlass.
Okay, yeah.
So Frankie calls me and he says, I would love for you to produce a record for me. I want to, I'm going to sing, And I said, cool, let's do it, So he came over and we went through the breakbeats records, that everyone had. And we just picked one of the loops.
Right.
It turned out to be Sing Sing. And I programmed a really quick beat over that. And it was fast because I had already been doing it, So
How many BPMs was it? What?
It was 119.
Okay.
119, yeah. So then once the beat was there, then we started to lay down, ideas. And it was really quick because if you really listen to it, the foundation of Together Forever is the bass, the beat, the bass line, a pad, a fun thing in the verse, which Frank Cutlass played.
Yeah,
No.
No?
Well, that's different. Like I changed a lot of things after we did,
Okay.
but yeah, that was kind of like the take on, because I even sampled it also on McNoise. That was inspired by Depeche Mode, but mostly Elva Molina's version of that mix of Depeche Mode of "It Doesn't Matter."
Yeah, I can hear that.
Where it was the choirs.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to copy.
So who came up with the lead? I like the lead line on.
Frankie had, because it was supposed to be Frankie's record, he had a very strong idea what he wanted to do. The ideas came really quick. It was
he told me the same thing. Yeah, he says.
Yeah, I'm
we
telling
did
you
that so fast.
I think in 15 minutes we had the foundation.
Wow, that's crazy.
But this is what you got to remember. Again,
Right.
It was a demo, and I didn't have anything to record vocals on. So my friend Henry Santos had an 8-track Tascam. He let me borrow that with a small Mackie board, and that's what we recorded vocals on. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we had the track, we made the beat or whatever really quick, but nothing was recorded. Everything was in the computer, trigger, and the sampler and everything. On a different day, Frank Reyes wrote the song. He's always fast. Frank is like.
So there was no melody for the track.
There was no melody. I mean, if you go, dun, 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 I mean, that's a melody of a key line, but it's not a vocal.
It's a roadmap. It's a roadmap, right?
Not even, because Frank didn't follow that. Frank did his own thing. Frank made up his own thing. So Frank Reyes wrote the song, and this is the way I remember it, and it's very difficult because it was like over 30 years ago. But the way I remember it, we were in my apartment. Frank, Lisette, Frankie Cutlass, and maybe one or two other people were there. And Cutlass was there because he was going to drop a reference vocal. It was supposed to be his record.
Okay.
And just as, we were kind of handing him the mic, he said, we were teaching him, or Frank was teaching him the melody. And Frankie said, you know what, I really feel that this is, like it's kind of feminine.
He said that, yeah, he said that.
It's kind of like a girl song. Yeah, so I think you should give it to Lisette. So, that's basically where it started. So I recorded, Lisette's vocals, and then it became this demo, that's really sounded raw, unfinished, wasn't mixed. I didn't have any reverbs, nothing like that,
Right.
No way to mix it. It was just very raw.
Okay.
And that's what I tried to shop. And of course, it makes sense. Nobody liked it.
Right.
Nobody liked it.
Yeah, it was flat. It was flat.
Yeah. So I still have that demo. So I shopped that to everybody. And at that point, I was already in the music industry. So I took it to Motown. I took it to Atlantic. I took it to Columbia. I took it to so many labels. Polygram. Everybody didn't like it.
What did you do different to get it signed?
Well, here's the thing. And what happened with the record is over a long period of time, because it was probably like a year before I got signed, of me constantly trying to do something to fix it. But I was very limited. I didn't have a real studio.
Right.
So, I think I made Lisette sing it 3 times, I think,
Wow.
different ways, And so the 8-track had a stereo, of the track, not even mixed, a lead vocal, a double, and harmonies. And that was it. That was a demo.
You had a stereo of the track?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't,
Wow.
it wasn't mixed. So finally, I think Andy heard it, because then after I finished with the majors, I started to go to the indies. Yeah, nobody liked it there either. And I remember Fever
Did you take
heard
it to
it.
Tommy Boy?
I didn't know anybody there.
Okay.
I knew nobody there. I wish I did, and but I didn't know anybody there. So Fever heard it, they turned it down. And other demos, all the other demos I was talking about, because there was, again, Touch My Heart, Do Unto Me, Baby Please Don't Leave. We had like this package, and we were always presenting it as a package, and no bites. Right. Then what happened was at some point, Fever locked into a deal with Def Jam through Rush Associated Labels, and they needed 2 singles to lock in the contract before the end of the year. So they were like under the gun. So they put the word out again. We need to hear everybody's demos, So ultimately they signed Together Forever, the demo, and Sandays Notice Me. Those were
What year was that?
I think it was 1990. But
Yeah, what it shows here is like it shows 19. Yeah, about
You know,
1990.
because that was the signing of the record and the negotiation of everything. You know,
Now
actually,
that was a straight deal, or that was a production deal?
that was a production deal.
Okay, production deal. Just like me, I was signed. So for a lot of people to understand, sometimes back then production deals were really popular because the producers were pretty much the creators of the direction of the track for the most part, and they were the ones that were coming in with the beats and the tracks and everything. All they needed to put was a singer on there, you know.
Listen, oh yeah, exactly. All we did had to do was sing the record, and
Just,
you
yeah,
know,
it was done. So a lot of people don't
yeah.
understand. This is so as a
So
singer.
this is the interesting part.
Okay,
To me, this is the best part.
okay,
Because finally we had a budget where we can finish the record for real, you know?
all right.
So we were able to, you know, I recorded it at Unique Recording. You know, our recording engineer was Richard Joseph, and he did a fantastic job of recording the track. I went so prepared. Like, there was no minute wasted. There was not a second wasted. I had a lot of hours to record vocals. We had Audrey Wheeler. We had, you know, Tony Druten at the studio, Bobby and Joanne, Nathan, who owned the studio, who cut us big breaks, you know, to be able to get the job done. I brought in King Shamik because I had heard him on a Sweet Sensation record that Ted Courier played me. Called
I'm not familiar with that name. What was he? A writer, a arranger?
King Shamik was the DJ for Twin Hype.
Okay. I remember.
Okay, so I heard him on this other record. He did a break, like that style, like what he did on Together Forever. I heard it on I Surrender for Sweet Sensation.
Okay.
And I said, Ted, what is this? He goes, oh, that's my man, you know, King Shamik. I said, can I have his number? You know,
Yeah.
and he gave me his number. I made the contact, and we set a date at the studio. And I left a brand new tape. You know, I did a composite, so it was only 2 tracks. Everything else was open. And he came in, and just with records and a mixer, he laid down that break. Which, I watched him do it. He did it like in, I'm going to say like 10, 15 minutes. Wow. Because he already had it planned in his head.
Right.
So he was doing it one track at a time. You know,
Which break
like,
you talking about?
Together.
Oh.
I can't. Yeah. He did each one of those sounds individually.
Really? Did you pay for those? What did you have to pay for those license? Those?
I honestly don't remember.
You don't remember?
Okay. I don't remember.
All right. I know there was a certain time when they those things weren't.
I remember that that was Run DMC Together Forever.
Right.
Yeah. And that was on. I guess that was on Profile. No, that was on Def Jam.
No, I don't. No, they were on. Well, probably Profile then, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't remember.
So,
but did they pay for it? I don't know.
Okay. So, all right. So, you know, that was the Lizette Melinda story, and then you know, a lot of other records and hits followed with her. That was a great album. Did the album ever go gold or no?
The album almost went gold, you know. Okay. But it was hard because the truth is, you know, you got to remember also, again, even after the record got signed, nobody believed in it.
Right.
So they, you know, Def Jam didn't really understand it. They wanted it to win. Columbia was against it. You know, CBS, they didn't respect it. You know. So,
you know what's frustrating to hear over and over again. You know, and I guess that's why, I guess karma, right? I mean, that's why Freestyle has such a long life, and is still going to this day. I don't think the execs knew what to do with that kind of music.
Yeah, well, it's you know, it's a forever story. It's the same story repeated over and over again. You know, so the tragedy is this, where, you know, they failed on the first record on Together Forever. What I was trying to get to be Lisette's second record, Temptation, ended up going to Atlantic with Karina, and they didn't hesitate. They jumped on it. So what they were able to do in taking a top 10 is what, you know.
Yeah.
PBS, and but I'll be honest with you, you know, it still went to top 40 only for one reason, because Andy Panda said, listen, I remember he called me in for a meeting and he said, this is what's happening. They don't like the record. They're not promoting it. We got to take it on ourselves. Are you willing to go half with Fever? You know, we'll go halves. and hired 4 independent promoters around the country, and we'll work the record ourselves. And that's exactly what we did.
Oh, I didn't know that about you guys. So you were the producer on the record, and you had to pay to get.
Well, because I was a production company, you know
right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
So the contract, like Lisette was signed to me, After Dark was signed to Fever. Fever had to deal with Ariel. Ariel had to deal with Def Jam. Def Jam was signed to Columbia, and Columbia was signed to Sony. So, you know, I made zero money.
Yeah. That seems to be the story.
We made money on the publishing, but not on record sales. You know?
Right. A lot of people don't understand that after the vocal recording session is done, they think that the record is done. That's not even the beginning of the iceberg. You know, what happens is, so me as a singer, well, now anymore, not back then, I used to stay, but the majority of singers, okay, I'm done, they leave. They go home. The producer stays there pretty much the rest of the night if he has
I
the
can't
money.
say, I mean, if I put all the hours together that I worked on together forever, I know it would be at least a couple of hundred.
Look at that. It's people don't understand
over a long period of time, and then even in the studio. Here's another story. I mixed the record at Bob Blank's old studio. It was renamed Hip Pocket. My man Butch Jones was the mix engineer, and I mixed it. Now, I budgeted the whole thing. I'm going to tell you right straight up. I got I'm not going to say it, but I had like $1,000. I left $1,000. I left $1,000 for me. You know, I said I'm just going to take $1,000. I'm going to put the rest in the record. So I did. We mixed the record. I take it to Andy. You know, it was always Andy I was dealing with. So I took it to Andy. We listened to it on in his office, and he said, "There's something wrong with the mix. There's something wrong with the mix. You got to go in again." I said, "All right, cool. You know, cut me a check." And he goes, "Nah, man, that's on you." You know, so I was like, "Well, there goes my $1,000." So I went back in, and we had to recall that entire mix. People don't understand this because it's a different world, but to recall a 48-track mix with all those compressors and delays and reverbs and everything had to be put back in the same position that it was in for the first mix. But I did it, and I delivered it, and finally it did come out better,
Right.
But even then, I thought I messed the record up. I remember when I was editing.
You're pretty hard on yourself. I mean, I've never seen someone beat themselves up like you do. But you strive for perfection.
In the editing room, I edited the record with headphones on because I didn't want anyone to hear the record. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's a whole thing. Yeah. I'm a little twisted when it comes to this.
Yeah. For this, this guy got more story. That's another fucking show right there, man. But look, we ate up. I'm sorry, finish.
Frank Reyes wrote, like 99% of Lisette's album. And it was a very tough undertaking because we didn't sign a contract for an album. All of a sudden, when the record hit top 40, they said, "We want an album right away."
Of course.
I was like, "Oh my God!" So
guys want.
It took us a while, but
Yeah,
Frank wrote some classics, man.
Yeah, Frank Reyes. Shout out to Frank Reyes, man. I mean, you guys, the guy, before he even started directing movies and creating and writing movies, the guy was a great combination with Carlos Berrios. They worked together on many, many songs. He wrote a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, to this day, I think, A Day in My Life Without You is the best record we ever did.
Yeah, I like that song.
That's a great song,
So that we're at 38 minutes now. One thing I wanted to ask you was, of course you started producing new stuff, and you went, with Karina, and you did voice, and you started doing, also started doing hip hop as well. What was the Dust Brothers situation about? What's that about? The Dust Brothers. I thought you guys. So whose record is?
Okay, so the Dust Brothers were that's what they called themselves before they changed their name to the Chemical Brothers.
Okay.
Because somebody else, I think, was calling themselves the Dust Brothers. What happened was when I had a label with Will Sokolov in '96, I had After Dark Records with Will Sokolov and Todd Terry.
Right.
So they had Moonroof, they had Freeze Records, and even Frankie Cutlass came on board. I introduced them to Will Sokolov. And that was where he put out Puerto Rico, and other stuff. But I put out a record with using the Mexican as a loop, and I called it Doing It After Dark because it was the record that would drive my boys crazy, especially my friend Dennis, who we called him D-Ski. So it was called the D-Ski Dance.
Yeah.
So it was a very simple track, but for some reason,
Is that the one with the bass line looping?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people really loved it, especially overseas. So the Chemical Brothers or the Dust Brothers would play the thing all the time, and they licensed it from us so they could put it into a couple of their records over there. You know?
Yeah, because I heard it on. I'm searching for it, and I never knew the title of the record. So I'm, I didn't know what was the title of the record anyway.
Doing It After Dark. Oh, well, I mean, the original is the Mexican, but
yeah. No. But the one that you guys created was after your rendition. It was called "Doing It After Dark." You know what I was searching? "Doing It at the Park." So I couldn't find it, but I kept on finding Dust. Who are these Dust? I thought that was an Alias project that you did, but I didn't know it was the Chemical Brothers.
Yeah. So that was
So now let's go with for all the DJs that are in the room and all the young producers who are on here, like Beat Mechanics and all those crews that the guys that are watching right now. And as a DJ, right, how important was sound to you?
It was tremendously, it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day.
I'm sorry, not as a DJ, as a producer. I mean, as a producer, I'm sorry. As a producer, because I know everything starts from the DJ. I know that because DJs know what to play for their floors. But how important was sound to you in producing a record?
It's everything. I mean, you gotta, it's everything. You have to know what something, should sound like. Otherwise, you're flying blind, If you don't know what a kick should sound like, or a snare should sound like, or a bass sound should sound like, or a guitar should sound like, or what a vocal should sound like. If you don't know what it should sound like, then you're kind of flying blind, then you're sort of guessing, and you're just like adding EQ, and you think you're doing something. But honestly, we all start there. That's where I started. I had no idea. I was in mixes, early on. I did a record with Jürgen Kordelich and Tito Aquino, Tuto Aquino, the owner of Prime Cuts, and it was called Macumba. And I'm in the mix, and this is early on, and I'm listening to them. They're like, "Well, I think it needs a little 12.5K. What do you think?" Well, maybe 100, maybe 100 cycles, And I'm like, "Oh my God, you got to be a scientist, I don't understand any of this." Yeah. So, but little by little, you get.
I remember. I'm sorry to cut you off. I remember Mark Liggett and Chris we were in Cincinnati because that's where they had their recording studio. And I remember listening to the vocal, and it sounded great to me. And Chris says, "Why don't you add a little bit on George's vocal on the top end, add one more dB." I'm like, "What's a dB?" So I asked him, "What's a dB?" And he told me, I'm like, "It sounds like some science, some scientific stuff to me," and it was just a way of directing what you wanted, and it was just terminologies because people don't realize how important 1 dB is. It makes the world of a difference. But now we're talking in a digital age. This is different. We used to work at hardware. All that stuff that you have behind you, that's all considered hardware. Now people see that thing that you have behind you, and they see it in the screen, and it's a software. Right. Are you more of I'm old school. Are you more hardware or software?
I prefer, if I could have all hardware, that's what I would do,
Right.
Working in the computer is a lot easier. It's a lot easier. It's faster. You could close the thing, open it up. There it is, exactly the way you left it 6 months ago. These days I have to have I'm going to show you. I have to have these kind of little things printed out, so I remember where I put the buttons,
Yeah.
And, that's the way we used to record mixes, if you had to record a mix, the assistant engineer had all that. It was painstakingly, done, but the sound, I think still it's undeniable that you get something a little bit more when you use outboard, when you use physical stuff. Yeah.
I agree. I hear the difference. I don't care what anybody says. I hear the difference. Let me ask you something. How much investment does Carlos put in every record that he does, even now to this day, time-wise?
Ridiculous amount of hours, because I'm always still struggling, to find the perfect blend of sound and song and feel and all that stuff. And it's like, it's like cooking, it's like how much of this oregano do you put in? How much of
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And of course, sometimes I overdo it, and then I'll get angry, and I'll just shut the whole thing and just start from scratch and do it again. You know,
that could be everyone's worst enemy, because I've seen you work on records when you're like, it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not, and everyone's telling you it's ready, bro, it's ready. You're like, it's not ready, it's not ready. I'm like,
yeah. I started again in '96, a remake of I Burn.
Nice.
I put out a bunch of music. We were also releasing house records. I was signing house artists, and you know, a lot of guys who are popular now at the beginning of their careers, like Davison Ospina and Peter Presta and Jason Nevins and people like this. You know? So we put out a lot of house records on After Dark, but I also did my freestyle. You know, so I had Von Esco, I had you know, groups, you know, starting groups.
Right.
Joey May, which
Joey
is
May,
really C-Bank, you know.
Yeah.
But we gave her a new name because, you know, we couldn't use C-Bank, and we did Promise Me Your Heart, which to me is like one of my favorite records. You know, I mean, she sang the hell out of that record.
Yeah.
And beautiful song by Frank Reyes, and but then that wasn't working either, so I shut that down, or I walked away, and then I was gone for another 10 years, and then I started ADM Records with my partner Fernando Torres, and I did a double CD set in, I think, 2008 or 2009, something like that. A lot of music, you know.
Lately, the one we did, the one that me and you worked together lately, that was on
Robbins.
That was on Robbins. Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought we had did that first, and we recorded it for the compilation.
No. I don't remember how that came about, like if you wrote the song and I did the music, or if I did music and then you wrote a song, but we did that for Robbins.
I remember working. I came in with some of the lyrics already done. I had somewhat of a melody, but you changed the chorus entirely, and you said you should try it this way, and if it sounded, it was dark, of course, and I always try not to do dark stuff because that's not my lane, but you were like, it needs to be a little darker, so. And it worked, and it gave it that Carlos Berrios sound, and I love that record to this day. I think it's a good record. So then, you know, we got 11 more minutes left. So then you wound up disappearing. You come back and you finish with your last label, and then you start working on a silent project that you were playing with on and off, and you were working with Sammy Zone, who's an amazing singer. I think the guy is freaking dope. You start working on this Information Society running kind of remix thing that you said you wanted to do. And I remember you telling me, I'm like, you know, what the hell is he going to do with that record? Like, you know, what else can he do to it? I mean, it's just so straightforward in your face with that signature sound. You can either destroy it or you can make it even better. And then you played me the version, and you said that I want you and some other singers on it. And when I heard the record, I honestly, it was almost like you took the mix of the original Information Society and you put it through a digital car wash, and it came out squeaky clean, bro. I mean, the work that you did on that record, you must have bust your ass trying to get the sounds right. So kudos to you, man. You did this all on your own, or you had some help with the production?
Production? No, it was on me.
It was all you.
Yeah.
All you. So how long did it take you to get that one song done?
Again, it was a long period of time. You know, I don't want to spend too much time on that record, but the truth is, it was the bass line that was holding me back, because the bass line is what's iconic about Running. You know, dun, dun. So I was trying to figure out what synth they used, what combination of layers, and I wasn't getting it. It wasn't coming. It was like, you know, baking cookies, but they kept coming out like whack, you know. So I would throw the batch away and start fresh, and then finally I got it. It was 3 different bass lines, and I found a combination, and it worked together with the kick, and it worked, you know. And then that's when I told Sammy, I said, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to do it.
Even the keyboard lead lines were, bro, they were right on. You recreated that shit. I mean, to recreate something, you gotta have a really good ear, and there's not that many people that can do that. I mean, I find it hard to do sometimes, and a lot of people think that they could just put a Juno bass and make it sound like Let the Music Play. It doesn't work that way, you know.
Right.
You gotta combine it with a lot of stuff. But great song. You put it on wax. You had me and C-Bank on it. I mean, Joey May and Kay. He did his thing with the rap and he killed it. So kudos to that. Thanks for calling me on that one. That was kind of fun. So we got like 8 more minutes left. I want you to tell me where you think Freestyle is heading right now. Can we hit the wall again? Can we get it right? What would you want? Where do you want it to go?
Okay.
Remember, you got 8 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in 30 seconds. I want to talk about Sammy because we're working on Sammy's follow-up.
Okay.
And it's the first time that Frank Reyes has written a song that I'm working on.
Awesome.
in decades. You know,
Awesome.
he's written a song with Sammy's own. We're also doing 2 C-Bank records.
Dope.
Okay.
Dope.
We're also doing a Stephanie Bennett record. We're also doing but Sammy's follow-up is something that was inspired originally by the beat mechanic. Okay, John Ramirez out of Texas, and I want to give him a huge shout out because that, you know, it's a special. I think it's a special record, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
But we're still working on it, and because I want to do vinyl on it, it's going to be too many months. Vinyl takes like 3 months, sometimes almost 4 months before it's ready.
Right.
So because of that, I don't want to wait. So we're going to do a digital project, and with Sammy's own, I'm announcing now that we're going to do a remake of I Burn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Great song. Did Andy write that? Who wrote that song?
No, that was Marshall Jones.
Marshall Jones. Yes.
Yeah. So as far as where's Freestyle going, you know, I think we're always in the same place, which is nobody's really experimenting, you know. I think, and I know this is said a lot, and it's always from the people that came from the original, you know. Freestyle is something that was tagged onto the music once it became generic, you know. But the original records, when you think of records like Show Me, All in All, you know, Summertime, all those records sounded completely different. There was nothing about them that sounded similar.
I agree 100%.
You know? So that would be like something that we would need to get back to, and not have everything sound as if it came out, you know, on one label from a certain label, you know, in the mid-90s. That's the problem. So everyone is stuck on that one thing. It's the reason why I let go of working with loops, you know, for a long time. I'm working more with, you know, trying to find the right kick and snare and that sort of thing. Yeah. I think I'm going to swing back to us working with loops now, but there's so many different things that you can do. The other problem really is that people put more emphasis on creating tracks that sound familiar, you know, using this type of bass line, this type of kick, and they don't really focus on songs the way they should, you know. The song is everything. If you don't have the song, then, you know, you don't have anything. You know, it's like a movie. If you don't have the script, you don't have anything. All you have is pictures, you know, and other stuff and music. It's not, you know, there's a respect that you have to have for the song that I think even still today, it's not really where it needs to be, you know. And I'm talking
I believe one of the problems, and I'm sure there's many, one of the problems is that we have too much at our fingertips, right? And everything is too user friendly. So what happens is you start pushing jobs out, you know. I believe that production, unless you're Michael Jackson or Prince, you know, and you can just produce everything on your own, then kudos to you. But, you know, sometimes if you bring in other energy, right, and other magic, you know, things happen, magic happens. And the majority of the time, good things come out of that. Mistakes are good mistakes or bad mistakes, but something happens that take this sonically to somewhere else. And I think a lot of people they're staying within their bubble, and they're staying within their own creativity, and they don't want to expand. They don't want to give light to anybody else. If you don't want it and that's the way you want to do it, then hey, you know. But back then, it was Tony and Albert, it was Andy and Tony Moran, it was you and Frank, it was Chris and Mark. Now everybody is one person. Hey, more power to you if you can rock it. But I mean, end of the day, you need magic. And to get magic, you know, you need magic from other people so that you can create new magic, you know? And a lot of these young producers, they're very talented. They're very talented, but you need to expand the magic, you know, so that you can create something new, because you don't know what you're going to get, because you're going to stay in your lane. You know, you can only expand but so much. Then you're thinking, okay, I got to calm down. Maybe I'm getting a little too crazy now. So maybe this is not going to work. You know, you need that yang to tell you, no, this is the right direction. Let's go that way, you know, and give it a try.
Right. Well, that was the fun part of working back in the day. We were all, you know, we were all in the same room. The singer was there. Me and Frank was there. You know, sometimes friends would pass by. You have conversations. You'd have conversations about music. You have conversations about history of music. You have conversations about bands that you like, and all those things that become inspiring. You know, it's like, oh man, that reminds me of this thing. Oh, that bass line, the sound. That, yeah, you're right. That doesn't.
You know,
it
really does, and I think that's one of the main issues that we're having today. And I want this music to be around. I want these new kids to come up with something new. You got a lot of good talent out there. You know, you got Julio Mena. You got George Anthony. You got a lot of kids out there. You got Cynthia Figueroa. She's an amazing singer. She could kick ass. You know, I heard her on the new Jenny Renee track. Yeah, Jenny Renee. You know, they got some really, really, really good singers out there with some good sound. Sorry, go ahead.
I forgot. I got to give a shout out to my boy Gino Caparel, 418.
Oh, he's in the house. He's in the house. 418. Shout out to 418 Records.
What they're doing,
Berrios.
real quick, what they're doing is amazing, and
Yes.
and what we did with the running record, you know, they sort of picked up where we were stopping, and they just took it to another level.
Yes.
It's really exciting what we're doing. You know, we didn't get into that, but that's really, for me, is like possibly the next step. You know, what we're trying to do and introducing new acts, but with respect to both the music itself, the quality, and also songs. You know. We just signed somebody called Luis Marte. Wonderful record. You're going to hear it soon.
Dope. So listen, Carlos, I don't want you to get cut off. I don't want to be disrespectful. We have another minute left, man. I just want to thank you for taking your time and do it. I know you couldn't do it last week, man. I really, really appreciate it. I'm excited for new stuff. And, you know, whenever I'm down with stuff, you know, we always call each other when we don't hear each other for a while to find out what's going on. You know, and I got that long train coming, so don't worry about it. I'm going to hound you on that.
Man.
But again, I want to thank you. I'm going to thank you for joining me, everybody. This is episode 6 of The Talk with Carlos After Dark Berrios. We definitely got to do another one because there's still a lot more to talk about.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. You got yourself a great thing, and we'll talk.
Okay, thanks.
Later.